Picture one prehistoric hunter standing at the edge of open ground. A few steps behind, the rest of the group waits and watches. In the distance, a giant animal moves slowly across the plain. It could be a mammoth, though different regions face different giants. Every human body there is soft, breakable, and painfully mortal. The animal ahead weighs several tons, built from muscle, bone, and momentum. They carry no armor, no firearm, no vehicle, and no engine to escape with. Their weapons are made from wood, stone, bone, fiber, hide, and sticky plant resin. The animal does not need claws or fangs to end a human life. One badly placed step from the animal could crush a rib cage in an instant. A shallow wound might do nothing but make the animal furious. A wounded giant can sometimes become more dangerous before it becomes weaker. So an obvious question forms almost immediately in the viewer's mind. How does a sharpened stick reach anything vital on a body this large? Why doesn't the animal simply turn and kill the person holding it? And how does the physically weaker species end up as the predator? Ancient hunters had no guaranteed barrier and no truly safe distance between them and danger. The honest answer is not a secret weapon or a lucky throw. The hunt only became possible once humans changed the terms of the encounter. Before asking how the spear finally did its job, ask a better question. What had to happen long before that spear ever left a hand? The popular image gives the person at the front far too much credit, and it gives everything working behind that person almost none at all. Forget the image of one lone hunter landing a single perfect strike. A giant animal could absorb a serious wound and still keep moving. It could run, charge, rejoin its herd, or vanish into rough terrain. It could injure or kill the very hunter who wounded it. So, immediate collapse was never the realistic goal of the encounter. A successful hunt was often a chain of small advantages, not one blow. 4 elements made that chain possible, and they will return throughout this video. Space, people, time, and memory working together as one system. Ancient humans did not try to make one person equal to the animal. Instead, they tried to make the encounter unequal in the opposite direction. They wanted the target isolated, its movement restricted, its escape routes limited. They wanted more than one person able to respond if something went wrong. Ideally, they wanted the animal already weakening before the final approach. Naturally, the next question is simple. What weapon actually did the job? Some tools were built for thrusting at close, terrifying range. Others could be thrown or launched, using tools that extended their reach. Wood, stone, bone, fiber, and natural adhesives combined into complete weapon systems. No single weapon design explains every successful hunt across every era. A weapon's success depended on distance, angle, timing, and the animal's movement. This video will not turn into a catalog of prehistoric weapon types. The weapon matters, but only as one part of a much larger system. To understand why that system was necessary at all, start with the body. What exactly made a giant animal so difficult to bring down? Start with simple physics, because size changes everything about an attack. Large mass creates large momentum, and momentum does not ask for permission. A charging animal barely needs a weapon, because its own body is the weapon. Given open ground and a straight line, that body becomes devastating. A hunter could not treat a multi-ton animal like an oversized deer. Now, add anatomy on top of physics, and the challenge grows further. Thick hide can blunt a weapon before it ever reaches muscle. Muscle itself can absorb serious damage without shutting the body down. Fat thickness varies by species, age, season, and physical condition. Heavy bone can shield the organs that actually matter most. A point that stops inside muscle may hurt without killing quickly. Deep penetration toward the chest or major blood vessels mattered far more. This explanation stays general, since not every species was struck the same way. Ancient people never needed modern anatomical terms to understand any of this. What they needed was repetition, watching cause connect to effect again and again. Where the weapon entered, what kind of blood followed, how the animal moved next, how long the animal lasted, and what its body revealed during butchery. A carcass, laid open, becomes an unplanned anatomy lesson for everyone present. Ribs, hide, fat, muscle, and joints showed why one attack worked. They also showed why another attempt, on another day, failed. A weapon that worked beautifully on a rabbit did not automatically earn a promotion to giant animal duty. Facing something this size required an entirely different level of planning. Picture one composite example that this video will return to several times. A group has been quietly watching a large, solitary animal near a familiar route. This is not a recovered record of one exact, documented hunt. It is a reconstruction built from patterns supported across many different sites. Knowing where a wound might matter still leaves an enormous problem unsolved. How does anyone get close enough, safely enough, to use that knowledge at all. The first real advantage came from choosing the right target, not the biggest weapon. It is tempting to assume the smallest animal was always the safest choice. A calf may be small, but it is often surrounded by alert, protective adults. A herd carries many eyes, many ears, and coordinated defensive behavior. A solitary adult, despite its size, may lack any of that protection. An old, injured, exhausted, or separated animal could present a real opportunity. So could one that was distracted, crossing difficult ground, or already trapped. Humans were not simply hunting smallness, no matter how convenient that sounds. They were hunting the moment when the animal could no longer use its size effectively. That opportunity was never a fixed, universal rule. Availability could matter just as much as deliberate selection. Terrain then became part of the plan, not just scenery in the background. Mud could steal an animal's footing and its speed together. Deep snow could raise the energy cost of every single stride. Shallow or difficult water could limit how fast a body could turn. Steep slopes could threaten balance in ways flat ground never would. Narrow passages could shrink an animal's options down to almost nothing. Dense vegetation and natural barriers could close off entire escape routes. Humans did not always build these traps themselves from nothing. Sometimes they simply waited near a route the animal already used. Sometimes they pressured an animal gradually toward ground that favored people instead. Occasionally, they may have finished off an animal that was already dying, or scavenged one already claimed by the land. The goal was to bring human planning as close as possible to a weakness the animal could not escape. Return now to the solitary giant near its familiar seasonal route. The group does not rush forward the moment they spot it. They wait for its position, the wind, and the ground to align. Slowly, the animal's many possible directions shrink down toward one or two. Terrain can restrict an animal's choices, but terrain cannot act on its own. Someone still has to be standing in exactly the right place. Cooperation did more here than simply add extra hands to the effort. It divided one impossible problem into several smaller, manageable ones. The exact roles are impossible to prove, but one plausible arrangement looks like this. One person reads tracks left in soil or snow. Another watches wind direction and scent. Another studies the target's movements without approaching it. Others create controlled pressure, gradually guiding the animal's path. Some block or discourage certain escape routes before an attack begins. Others wait along the route the animal is likely to take. Some carry backup weapons in case the first attempt fails. Others follow at a distance once the animal has been wounded. Someone stays alert for other predators drawn toward the same target. Different groups, places, and periods would organize these roles differently. No single person needed to find, predict, block, attack, track, and guard alone. An impossible problem became manageable the moment it was divided among people. Risk itself became distributed, not just labor and effort. Not everyone needed to stand physically close to the animal's body. A person far from the final strike could still decide the outcome. A blocked route might matter more than one additional spear thrust. A single warning signal might matter more than raw physical strength. Knowing when to retreat could prevent a failed hunt from becoming a funeral. The wind could shift, the herd could react, or the target could reach open ground. A weapon could fail, a person could lose position, and surprise could disappear. A skilled group might abandon the opportunity without shame. Survival mattered more than proving courage. None of this required spoken language exactly as we imagine it today. It required shared expectations, signals, learned roles, and close attention to each other. Picture the animal seeing scattered human bodies around it. It may see each person without understanding the coordinated plan connecting them. One person redirects its movement without ever touching it. Another holds distance, watching, ready, but not yet acting. A third waits exactly where the ground narrows to one path. The animal enters that limited space with fewer safe directions. One hunter thrusts or launches a weapon from the position the group prepared. Others add pressure or strike only when an opening appears. The goal is not a miraculous instant kill. It is a deep wound followed by enough distance to survive the response. The animal turns, runs, or charges, and the group breaks away from its path. The group did not grow powerful by adding muscle to muscle. It grew powerful by splitting one deadly problem into several survivable ones. That first wound rarely ended the hunt immediately. The animal might run, turn, stop, or even rejoin the herd. It might separate further from safety, or suddenly charge without warning. It might slow gradually, hiding its true condition surprisingly well. Now the group faced a real decision with real consequences either way. Follow immediately, follow from a distance, pause, approach again, or simply walk away. Tracking became its own quiet skill, built from small physical signs. Blood on leaves or ground told part of the story. A changed stride, a shorter step, an uneven print told the rest. Disturbed soil, broken branches, and distance from the herd added more detail. Not every giant animal died after prolonged tracking. The point is simpler. Reading decline mattered almost as much as the wound itself. Blood loss could steadily reduce strength over minutes, hours, or longer. Exhaustion could reduce speed, and pain could quietly change how the animal moved. Injury could shift behavior in ways that made a later approach safer. But time was never a guaranteed ally, and real risk remained throughout. Waiting too long could mean losing the trail entirely. Other carnivores, or another human group, might reach the animal first. The target might recover just enough to become dangerous again without warning. A wounded animal could still turn suddenly, with force nobody expected. So the group tracked, but rarely crowded, the animal they had wounded. They watched whether it still moved with real strength or growing weakness. Bravery was never treated as a replacement for careful distance. Patience reduced the time anyone had to spend within reach of a wounded giant. Knowing when to follow and when to wait required something deeper. It required knowledge no single person could invent alone in one afternoon. This is where the story becomes something larger than one hunt. The group did not rely only on the knowledge of those physically present. It could draw on observations made long before that day began. Repeated seasonal patterns, earlier successes, and earlier painful failures all counted. Butchery experience, remembered danger points, and old decisions about when to stop mattered too. Picture a young person quietly watching an adult identify fresh tracks in mud. Picture a novice carrying tools closer to danger before ever attempting an attack. Picture someone noticing exactly how a wounded animal's stride begins to change. Picture a carcass revealing the true thickness of hide and the position of ribs. A route that failed once could quietly be avoided the next season. A crossing used successfully many times could become part of the group's shared memory. Archaeology cannot hand us a transcript of any prehistoric lesson. It cannot show the exact words, the exact teacher, or the exact moment. But complex, repeated behavior strongly supports the idea of social learning. Complicated practices rarely stay stable if every person must rediscover them alone each time. Knowledge like this was probably expensive, in every sense of that word. Some safe practices may exist because earlier people approached too soon. Other lessons may have begun when someone stood in the wrong place, or when someone misread the animal's condition or lost the trail. We cannot recover any one of those lessons. But dangerous skills rarely become safer without costly mistakes. Culture did not only preserve techniques that worked well, it may also have preserved mistakes that were too costly to repeat twice. A person could begin from knowledge earned before their own life even started. A mistake did not have to vanish along with the person who made it. A carcass became anatomy, a track became a map, a failed route became a warning. That is the real meaning behind the idea that the past joined the hunt. When the animal finally fell, an entirely different problem was just beginning. How do you stop a giant body from becoming a giant waste? A dead animal this size created an urgent new emergency of its own. The carcass was far too large to move as one single piece. Tools dulled quickly against hide, bone, and heavy connective tissue. Meat began spoiling almost immediately, especially in warmer conditions. The smell alone could attract dangerous scavengers within a short amount of time. Heavy sections demanded serious, coordinated physical labor to move it all. Different tissues decayed at very different speeds, adding pressure to every decision. The group had to decide quickly what to eat, carry, share, or leave behind. This likely meant opening the hide and removing sections in a careful order. It meant recovering meat, fat, marrow, organs, hide, sinew, and bone. It meant keeping a fire going, repairing damaged tools, and hauling resources. Someone still had to watch for predators drawn in by all the activity. People who never delivered the fatal wound could still shape the entire outcome. Their organization determined whether the kill produced food, materials, and shared security. Without that organization, the same kill could produce spoilage, injury, and conflict. The bones cannot reveal an exact group size or one universal preservation method. They cannot reveal a fixed sharing rule or complete social hierarchy. The carcass shows heavy labor, not a complete social blueprint. The animal died only once, but its value depended entirely on what came next. And what came next left its own strange trace in the archaeological record. Here is a real mystery hiding inside seemingly obvious evidence. A skeleton covered in cut marks can look like a clear, simple hunting scene. The composite hunt we followed is therefore a model, not a transcript. But bones often preserve the ending of a story better than its beginning. Cut marks can indicate butchery took place at some point. Fresh fractures in bone can suggest marrow was deliberately extracted. An embedded point or clear impact damage offers much stronger evidence of an attack. Surrounding sediment can hint at natural trapping or gradual environmental processes. But none of this automatically proves exactly how an animal died. Evidence of butchery proves access to a body, not responsibility for the kill. Humans may have scavenged an animal that died from other causes entirely, or finished off one already badly injured. Carnivores may have reached the body first, long before any human arrived. The uncertainty here is not whether ancient humans ever hunted giant animals. The uncertainty is how any one specific animal died, and how many steps of one hunt can honestly be reconstructed. Preservation itself is deeply uneven, and that unevenness quietly shapes the record. Wood, fiber, bindings, adhesives, and soft tissue rarely survive long enough to be found. A soft tissue wound may vanish completely, leaving nothing behind on the bone. Effective weapons were likely recovered and reused, while broken points lodged in bone tend to survive far more often. So the record may quietly preserve accidents better than clean, successful strikes. It may also make ancient hunting look more stone-heavy than it really was. Archaeology gives us pieces of a hunting system, not a frame-by-frame recording. The missing details prevent one single, universal reconstruction of every hunt, but they do not erase the larger pattern shared across many plausible methods. So how did ancient humans kill animals so much bigger than themselves? They avoided fair, direct physical contests whenever they possibly could. They selected vulnerable individuals, or waited for genuinely vulnerable moments. They used terrain and weapons suited to their particular time, place, and materials. They divided tasks and danger across the group, and tracked wounded animals with patience. And they let time and blood loss finish what the wound started. Return once more to the model: space, people, time, and memory. Space meant fewer directions and less room for the animal's body. People meant no single hunter had to solve the whole problem alone. Time meant the first wound never had to do everything immediately. Memory meant the group never truly started a hunt from zero. At the beginning, the eye was drawn to one fragile human and one giant animal. That comparison was incomplete from the very start. The animal was facing tools shaped and positions chosen long before that morning. It was facing people performing different roles at different distances. It was facing decisions learned from dangers other people had already faced. And it was facing time itself, working steadily against its wounded body. Human strength was never meant to fit inside a single body. It could stretch across other people, tools, places, and shared memory. Ancient humans did not need to become stronger than giant animals. They needed to build a situation in which strength was no longer enough. The giant animal was stronger than every hunter standing there, but it was not stronger than everything those hunters knew together.